right. So, hello everyone.
Alright.
Thanks for coming in. I know it's late in the evening, so hopefully this information is very helpful for everyone, and make it worth your evening. So, just so I know who the audience is, realtor, investor, learning. What are you guys? Realtor.
Learning.
I'm wrong.
Okay.
Investor learning.
That's totally fine. That's doesn't matter where you are. This info is good for you at any time. So I will try to cater it as best I can to you guys. Anytime, just ask me a question. You can interrupt. There's no problem with that. I know this stuff already, so I'm here for you. I really am. So whatever I can do to help you out. So hard money lending. Has anybody used hard money before?
I'm familiar with it.
Familiar with it. Okay. So what do you think it is? What do people think it's used for? I mean, I always like to kind of see what stereotypes are out there.
Well, just the fact that it's called hard.
Hard money, yeah. So does that make it hard?
You think high interest.
High interest is probably true. I'm not going to be able to stop that.
But it's not as
stereotype.
high as people really think.
Not as high as people really think. Yeah, that's a very good point. So it's really just a numbers game, just like everything in real estate. It's all about making the numbers work, right? So hard money is typically used. I mean, we're essentially the same thing as an angel investor or a venture capital company that would do this for a business. We just specialize in real estate, right? It's a proven business model, so we are very comfortable taking a property and knowing what it's worth. With an investor, that they're going to take this property, they're going to rehab it, and then either sell it or buy and hold it, meaning they would refinance out of our loan to a long-term loan that's a little bit cheaper. But there's reasons why you can't just start with the cheap money right away, which I'll get into. So that's our business. That's our whole business is lending money. I sell money. That's what I do. I sell money, and it's there to help people fix and flip a property. Whether it's you yourself that want to look to get into this, or if you want to be able to provide this information for clients of yours, because there's a lot of money to be made as a realtor in the investment side of things. It's not as crowded as your normal, trying to sell homes to couples, right? I mean, it's very competitive for you guys there. I know it is right now. But the investment world is not as competitive, but you got to get a little bit more involved in the business. You got to understand a little more, be able to refer, these people who do the fix and flips. You got to find the right deal for them. That's what they're always looking for. They're looking for the right deal. And that just means you're finding these beat up properties that nobody wants to touch. And you're saying, hey, I got a good one for you. It's going to be a good price. So that's your job as a realtor, to find that. And then if you can connect them with somebody like myself, a hard money lender, they don't need all the money up front to be able to do this, right? So it helps you sell the house. We can pay you for a referral as well. So it's really a win-win-win, right? That's why we go around. We go to these brokerages. We educate everyone because you guys are the ones out there on the ground floor as realtors finding these deals for everyone. So it's very important you guys are aware of these resources, so that way when you're talking to your potential clients, you can have us as a weapon in your arsenal of information, right? So that's typically what hard money lending is used for. Now I'll go into a little bit about myself and my company. I'm with Hard Money Bankers. That's what we're called. We've been around since 2007, so we not only survived the last recession, but we boomed during it, and that's where we made our name. So I have two partners down in DC and Maryland. They're the ones who founded it, and they started that up there. We moved up here with Ian, as some of you know, into the Philly area, and then I have the Jersey area. So that's a little bit background on us. We're privately funded, so there's really two types of lenders out there. There's privately funded lenders, and then there's capital investment funded lenders, which is basically they went to a bank, said, hey, I can do this for you. The bank said, okay, here's $1 million, here's $10 million, however, you can use our money to go out and do this. Privately funded is, we know all of our investors. It's people who have given us their money to trust us in order to do these projects, do these fix and flips. So one has restrictions, one doesn't. The institutionally funded ones, your banks, are going to have more restrictions. Your privately funded ones, we can do whatever we want with the money, right? Our investors say we trust you, do what you got to do. So we can get a lot more flexible. Now there's pros and cons to both of these. So there is a time and a place for the institutional ones. There's a time and place for the privately funded ones. If you have time, and time is not always something you have when you're dealing with investment properties, because these people do this for a living, so they're trying to move as quick as possible, right? If you do have the time, you can go to these banks, and if you have good credit, you have good paperwork, meaning you have great W-2s, you have everything a bank looks for. It's almost no different than getting a regular mortgage. It's basically the same thing, but that process takes a while. It can take a month, it can take 2 months, okay? Your privately funded people, such as ourselves, I can meet you literally tomorrow at a closing table if you're ready to go. If title's in, I can fund you tomorrow. Because we don't have all the restrictions that we don't have to go through all that paperwork. Now, the pros and cons basically come down to the cost. So you're going to see rates anywhere from 10%, 12%, 14%, and even 16%. And that's for a 1-year loan. Your typical duration is 12 months on these fix and flips. So every month you're going to be paying anywhere from 0.8% to about 1.4%. Right? So that's if you break out. I can write it down. So if you have the 10%, 12%, 14, 16, this is divided by 12, right? To get your monthly interest-only payments, right? So this is about 0.8, I believe, might be off, right? 1%, 1.16, right? So that's what you'd be paying every month. So that's expensive compared to a conventional loan. That's, right now you're seeing rates that are less than 3, right? Has everybody even seen that? It's insane. But those are primarily for your homeowners that are looking to live in a property for 30 years and take out a 30-year loan at 3%. But your fix and flippers, they understand you're going to get much higher rates with your private lenders or your hard money lenders. But the idea is that you fix and flip this within 3 to 6 months. You're not trying to be in there for the full year, right? You're trying to fix that and get out as soon as you can. So get in, get out. That is the key to hard money and being a successful flipper or your client. You want to make sure they're fast. So because if you get out in 6 months, you've only paid 6%. You don't have to pay the full term. Some lenders do, we don't. But you don't have to pay the full 12 months. So it's all about speed. You want to get in and get out. So that's typically what you're going to see when it comes to rates. You're going to be able to get the 10 and 12% rates with your capital funded lenders that I was mentioning. The ones that take longer, they check your paperwork, they check all that, they can give you probably the better rates. But if you're looking to move quick, that's when you come to us. We're going to be around 13, 14%. That's typically what we are. So over 6 months, you're probably talking a few hundred. You could probably hit maybe 1,000, 2,000, depending on your loan size, cost difference. But you look into how much time it saved you. You have to do the math and make sure that makes sense for you. So that's the difference between capital lenders and privately funded is typically the rates and also the flexibility because we can do really crazy things that they can't do, such as the collateral. Hang on, before I get into collateral, let me slow down here. Any questions so far?
So when you say literally you can fund the next day right after the title, what's required?
So the 3 things that I would need in order to be able to do a deal with you or your client is the address. Give me the address of the property. Give me the purchase price, and the estimated renovation. That's it. That's all I need. Which is.
And ID.
So for closing, the documents that I would need your ID, I would need your license. If you're doing it in an LLC, I would need your LLC docs. And if there's rehab, I would need a scope of work.
That's it. You don't need bank statements?
We do not need bank
Do
statements.
you need pay stubs?
Don't need pay stubs.
Do you need the blood of your firstborn?
We do need the blood of your firstborn. That
What did you say about rehab? I didn't catch that.
If-
The 3 things we just need to when we come to you.
All right, so I'm going to answer that question first, and then I'll come to that one. So the question is, what do you need with the rehab? Scope of work, which is outlining what needs to be done to the property, how much it's going to cost. And the 3 things that we need in order to take a look at a deal is just the address. I can write it down. Address, purchase price. And I always say, give me the high end of the purchase price, because maybe you're trying to throw a bid in. Just tell me what you're gonna go up to. And that way, if you get it for less, you can always come down a little bit. But give me a worst case scenario. And same thing with the rehab budget. Give me the high estimate first, right? If you go in and you can talk to your contractor, you can come back and say, hey, we don't need to do X, Y, Z, so we came down 10,000. That's okay. Give me worst case scenario first, right? So that's it. So those are the three things now I need. Now the two things I will look into in order to tell you what my loan size will be are your credit score and your experience. Now it doesn't matter your credit, we will do a deal with you. You could have 400 credit and we will do a deal with you, it's happened. But that typically means you're gonna have to bring more cash to the table. So your down payment's gonna be swayed by that. So the tough spot to be in is no cash, bad credit. It's really hard for me to help you. I will do my best, but that's when it's really hard. But if you have bad credit and cash, we can connect. If you have good credit, no cash, we can connect. Right? So that's typically how it works. So you look like you have a question.
What's your credit score? What's the?
So our rates are always going to be around 13 to 14%. Some lenders have a whole term sheet. If you have 750 credit, you can get 10%. If you have X credit, you get this. Ours only impacts the down payment. That's how we decide to do it. So we're always, doesn't matter if you have 800 credit, your rate's still going to be 13% with us.
But you've got to have something in.
So I mean, like fair credit is 700. I mean,
Yeah,
credit
like some of them is like
Fair
some
is
of
650.
mortgage places there is they won't even talk to you if it's not at least 620.
We don't have that. We
You
will
don't
talk
have-
to
you know, you
talk
don't-
to everyone. So the way that would work. So normally we go up to, and this is for a strong borrower, which means they have experience and they have the credit. That's what we call a strong borrower in the lending side. We can go up to 65% of the ARV. Anybody know what the ARV is? After
Fair value.
So we're looking at the value after it's fixed up. Yeah. So this is probably the most important number that you want to get getting good at.
What's the minimum ARV?
So we don't really have a minimum ARV. But no, I shouldn't say that. About 100,000.
Okay.
About 100, 115,000. Because that, to us, is an indicator of an area we don't want to be in necessarily.
Right.
So anything above 115,000 we'll typically go in on. There's no minimum loan amount. We can do a $5 loan if you really needed it, but that would be very costly. I've done a $10,000 loan. I mean, it happens. You need the cash, and it's like, okay, we'll put it together for you. So, but the minimum ARV is about 115,000. So, what this means, the reason why I'm going into this is because if you have bad credit now, my rates aren't changing. You're staying at 13, 14%. But I may only go up to 55% now. If you have, 500 credit or under the 620, right? So what that means for you, on this, typically your down payment's going to be around 10 to 20%. That's usually what it equates to. With the numbers we're seeing right now, because it's tough to get a really good deal right now. People are overpaying in short. So what'll happen is we'll only go to 55%. So that means your down payment is now 20 to 30%. So that's what your credit is going to impact, not your rates. Yeah. And we don't have a hard and fast rule. Some lenders are always saying, we're 90% acquisition and 100% rehab. It's every property is different for us. We are looking at every property differently, seeing your numbers, seeing what we're comfortable lending. So we've done 100% financing. It can happen. It was more common 4 years ago when it wasn't as competitive as it is right now, as I'm sure you guys all know. But it can happen. So that's the ARV and credit. I covered all that.
So if you're an Uber driver, you can get a loan with you guys.
You could. It might be tough. Depends on your savings.
Okay.
Because we don't want to have you pull everything into one deal, and then if one thing goes wrong,
Crash and burn.
crash and burn, right? So we want to make sure you do have enough savings. So, but that's more. So we don't normally require a bank statement. Sometimes, if we're not sure, we're gonna say, "What's your bank statement?" Right? But for the like, I'd say 95% of deals we don't, because basically our number, we're protected. So the way it works for us, and why it's a good business investment for us, is because we're confident if everything were to go wrong, our number's still good. So we're going to be protected by the asset, but we hate going through foreclosure. It is such a nightmare. I don't know if anybody's ever done it. I don't recommend it at all. It's just a nightmare for everyone involved, right? But we do at least know our investors will get their money back. That's at least what we are confident in with our numbers to you. So that's why we don't necessarily need the bank statements and whatnot. But we also don't want to put a borrower in a bad situation, which is when we would ask the bank account, because what you don't want to do is say, let's just say, especially with Philly deals, there's a lot of, maybe you can buy it for $30,000, put a $50,000 renovation into it, resell it for $130,000, something like that. Which those deals we do a lot, but we don't want, if we say to you, you have to bring $20,000 to the table, we don't want it to be every penny of yours. We want to make sure you have some reserves, because that $50,000 reno, one thing you did not see can make that a $60,000 reno. Two things, now you're at a $70,000 reno. And you're not going to get more money from us. We can't. We've given you our max already. And good luck trying to find it from another lender, because when another lender looks at that and says, well, why didn't they give that to you? I'm not going to be the next guy holding the bag, right? So it's tough when you already have a loan to get another loan, right? Because there is a level of mutual respect between lenders saying you've probably done a level of due diligence that I shouldn't be too far off from, right? So the key is to not put all of your eggs in one basket. Well, you can do one project, but don't put all of your cash so you don't have anything spare on that project. So we usually recommend 20% reserve.
What about people come together, like before 5?
Sure, we do those all the time. Those are good.
Yeah.
That's we encourage that actually, because
Right.
a lot of
Then there's less risk, because that one person, it's not all on that one person. It's just a collective. Everybody has a little bit of reserve.
For sure, exactly. It's all about buying power, and that in the lending world is basically taking however much cash you have and leveraging it so you can buy more. So typically with the hard money lender, you're going to get a 4-to-1, 5-to-1, 6-to-1 buying power. And what I mean by that is if you have $20,000, it means you could probably buy up to $100,000, meaning we will cover up to $100,000. So if you're able to
Bring 5 people together.
bring 5 people together, your 20,000 buying power might have just gone up to 60, 70, 80,000, which means you're now in the $400,000 range to 600,000. So it's highly encouraged by us to definitely partner up. Now, the downside is not on for us, because we don't have to deal with the group, right? There's a catch to that for sure. But from the lender's perspective, everybody's signing, and meaning everyone's responsible equally, right? But you would have to manage the relation side of things. That would be the catch to that. But those loans work out more often than the individual ones. We rarely see those go sideways, because there's usually, if they do go sideways, there's usually one individual that can pull it together. But yeah, so that's a very good strategy for sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the most that you can do, like for somebody with good credit and good experience, is 65% ARV. Have you ever done a loan where it's maybe like 90% ARV?
No.
He said he did 100. You did 100% like years ago.
We can do 100% financing, but that's different than the max ARV.
Okay.
So what this means is if you want the 100% financing, you have to be buying it and rehabbing it and closing costs all under this number.
Oh, under the
under the
65.
65%.
So that has to be a really good deal.
That's why I was saying we used to do it a lot more even 4 to 5 years ago, but now it's tough. It's tough to get those really good deals. So just to give you guys some basic numbers on that, if your ARV is 200,000, 65% of that is 130. So if you wanted 100% financing, your purchase and rehab and closing costs are all gonna have to come over under 130, which
That's hard.
it's hard to do. They're out there, we do them. But those are more like hitting a lottery ticket nowadays. Yeah. So typically, well, honestly, what we see right now with a deal like this, your all-in number is probably going to be closer to 150, and that's where we're saying, you know, if we're bringing 130, you're probably bringing 20 to 40 is probably what I'd say there, depending on the nuances. But yeah, that's roughly what I would expect as a borrower. Yeah.
So I have another question. So somebody brand new to the game, like wanting to do fix and flips or fix and holds or whatever, and they have good credit and they have capital and all that other stuff, and they want to do like a hard money thing.
Sure.
So they could probably get the 65% ARV, bring 20 to the table, and then get everything 100%.
It's tough to get 100% as a first-time flipper.
Okay.
You'd have to be below the 60. Look, you'd probably closer to, if you were getting at the 55%, probably. We'd
Okay.
probably do that. First deal is always the hardest. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. It's the hardest. You get that first one in, and then basically you prove yourself. Whether it's with one lender or another, once you prove yourself, lenders can get more aggressive with their numbers with you. It's simply like that. But if you know, I just had one lady bought a house for $30,000 and it resold for $200,000. She didn't do anything to it. So, I mean, that never happens. Like, I wouldn't count on that, but I'm just saying that was a no-brainer for us. And she had no experience and bad credit. But it just depends on the property. It really does. And the numbers you're getting it at.
So you mentioned something that like makes my ears perk up.
Yeah.
What's the referral fee? So, as a realtor being out there, listing distressed properties and so forth.
Sure.
And then there's people like, you know, Markia that may come along and say, hey, you know, I want to invest,
Yeah.
and you know, we send her over to you.
Sure.
You know, what's the referral fee?
So there's multiple ways that can work with the referral. So one is you can already have that negotiated with the person. You can let them know, you know, I get a point. A point means a percent. You'll hear that term used with lenders, a point. And that's totally fine. We'll put that on the HUD for you. It's just added to the loan. It's no big deal. For the most part with realtors, though, they don't want their client to know they're also going to get referral fees, which is okay with us. There's nothing shady about it. It just means what'll happen is, so normally we're 13 and 3. So, okay, this is going to be a different slash, not the 12 months, so 13 and 3. So that's normally our rates. And what that means is we're 13% for the year, as we were talking about earlier, but we're also 3 points at closing. So we collect 3% of the total. So if we did a $100,000 loan, there's $3,000 that we're collecting. It's payment to us right away. So what you can do as a realtor, if you prefer them not to know that you're going to be getting
No, I mean, I prefer transparency.
Sure. It's whatever you want to do. So you can either add a point with the customer, let them know, or half a point. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You can add 10 points. If you can negotiate it with the customer, we don't care. We will put whatever you want in there. If you also want, you can tell them we are 13 and 4, and then we would literally write you a check outside of closing. So you wouldn't go on the HUD, which is fine because you're doing the same thing. It's just one is a little bit more transparent with the customer. So that's how the referrals work. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. Or you can also flat fee. You know, if you tell them, yeah, just throw $200 on for me to talk with them. It's really whatever you can negotiate with the customer. But if you do want to not do that, which there's reasons why, but you know, like I said, we can put it in there. We would write you a check after closing.
Okay.
So, any questions on that? How the referrals work? Okay.
Question.
Yes.
In going through you all, can it be your primary residence?
No.
No?
So that is big no-no from the government. I would love to, but the government does not let privately funded investors do that. that's when you have to go through your bank funded ones. They have legal requirements that they have to follow. They have to prove that you're able to pay for that house, basically. Once you go the privately funded route, we're not following those same regulations. So it can only be for investment properties. That's what you'll hear with lenders. Is this your primary or is this an investment property? So it has to be an investment property.
Can a non-realtor refer a client to you?
Sure, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So since we're privately funded, we don't follow the same regulations that certain referrals have to. Meaning, literally anybody can refer to us in your choice state because it's an investment property. If it was the primary residence, the rules change a little bit.
Okay.
But for us, anybody can refer.
So his business cards are in the cups. You know, everybody wants to do fix and flip, so, you know, you wanna, you know, make a couple of dollars off of it, you know, refer over.
And the cups change color. But I set up and change color.
Well, I'm gonna give you like a real life scenario.
Sure,
right?
go for it.
So I have a client that's closing on a property on, next week, actually.
Okay.
Right, but after he closes on a property, he wants to, you know, rent it or whatever.
Yep.
But then he wants to immediately find something to invest in, to, you know, to buy and hold.
Yep.
So I told him about, you know, like the, you know, the hard money lending and stuff like that. I told him, I think that would be best because he's probably already at his max with his, you know, like with his bank as far as debit to income
Okay.
ratio and stuff like that.
Yep.
But his credit is excellent and he has the money to continue to
Sure.
move on.
Yeah, that's
So,
we're built for that scenario.
I'm thinking like if I found him something like in the range of maybe like 85 to 90, I'm thinking.
That's the purchase price?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just for hypothetically. 85.
Yeah.
All right. So with he's a beginner,
Okay.
right? So he doesn't have any experience, but he has the credit,
Okay.
right? And the ARV probably in the area is probably like, I'm gonna say 200.
What's the rehab?
I suggested that he get something that he can do cosmetically.
Okay.
Nothing deep. Put some paint on the walls. You know, maybe redo the floors. You know, some just cosmetic stuff.
Yep.
So I'm thinking that the rehab will probably be less than 10.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Is this a single family or multi?
He didn't really specify whether he wanted single or multi.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I'm thinking of maybe about 10, well, maybe let's say 15 in a rehab. And the ARV is probably like about 200.
So, if we got the same numbers as you, this would be a really good deal. I don't think we're going to have the same numbers, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
This is I don't mean to offend in any way.
No, because that's the only way I want to know.
Okay. The rehab is likely not going to get you to the 200 ARV. So when we are talking ARV, we are saying if you were to build a brand new property right next to this one, with the same size, same style, same everything, brand new, what is that worth? To us, that's what ARV is.
Okay.
So if you were doing $15,000 in cosmetics, when was it last updated? Do you know?
What do you mean?
Property?
Yeah, like.
Oh, this is just hypothetical. I don't know when it was last updated.
Alright, you can make it up.
Yeah.
2010 was last updated, we could say.
Probably. It's dated. The property's dated.
Okay, so let me tell you, if the property was 2018, I'd tell you you have to redo the kitchen, you have to redo the bathrooms,
Right.
if you want this ARV number.
Right.
So the way we do the math on something like this is we're still going to base it off this 200 ARV.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, so what our specialty is that, because people are always like, how can you lend just on knowing the purchase price, reno, and address? Like, how is that possible, right? Like, how do you not, don't you have to go see the property? Don't you have to, go in, talk to the contractors, things like that? So we've done enough flips where, what's the square footage of this? Let me ask that.
I'm gonna say 1,300.
Okay. If a 1,300 square foot property isn't costing you about 40 to 50 grand in reno, you're not getting ARV.
Okay,
Even if, like I said, even if the property was 2018.
okay,
Because that's how, it's almost like a new car, right? You know, like as soon as you drive off the lot,
Right.
your value just gets hit like 2000.
Right.
It's the same thing
Okay.
with properties in terms of ARV. But it doesn't mean we can't still do the numbers here. So we would say, okay, as a lender, we're assuming $50,000 reno right away. We're
Okay.
still going to go off of your numbers here.
okay,
So, working backwards, we would say, and this scenario still might actually be good, even with what you're saying. The 200,000 at 65% ARV, we could go up to 130, right?
mm-hmm,
But we think your renovation is off by $35,000.
mm-hmm.
So we're going to subtract 35 from our 60.
130.
So now we're at 95. Which is still pretty good, because you still but you only have to bring 85 plus 15, so you're at 100, right? So they would still only need to bring 5,000 here, which is good. But now you got to add in closing costs. So your closing costs are going to make this probably about 110,000, because you got to pay title company, you got to pay the state, you got to pay us our 3 points. So it's roughly, it might be a little less than 10,000, but just for the sake of conversation, we'll say 10,000. So now they really have to bring 15,000.
Right, plus he has to pay his realtor, so.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Well, that'll come out of his profit. Yeah, correct. So yeah, correct. So it adds up. It adds up very quickly. So now, and the other thing with this is, even though we're basing our number off of the ARV of 200,000, and we just subtracted 35, if he's a new investor, we build in leverage for ourselves. So we're probably going to say, I'm not going to give him the 85, 95. I'll give him 85. I'll feel more comfortable with this deal if he's bringing 25 to the table. And then basically what we would also say on this is, we're going to hold on to 15,000. When you're done with the project, I'll release that 15,000 to you.
Okay, so he bring 25 to close it, well, 25 plus.
25, yeah, 25 plus, and then he would also have to do the cosmetic only. In this scenario, every scenario is gonna be different. So this is a really good one that you put together here, because we get this a lot. The cosmetic only flips, and we can do them, but that people are always shocked by, like, well, how come you're not giving me 100%? It's like, well, we have more risk to worry about that people aren't really aware of. And, you know,
Right.
not everybody gives me the time of day like this for me to walk through them. Why? But really, it's just, that's the concern. Is, you know, we want to make sure it's done right.
Right. You wanna make sure that the ARV brings him to the 200,000.
Exactly.
So
Now,
that's where-
now this is only if we came to the same ARV. Many times people say ARV is 200, ARV is 250, and when we take a look, we're saying the house right next door sold for 150. What can you possibly do that would make this 50 grand more?
Right, so how are you all coming up with your ARV?
Just comping. Just
Okay.
comping. This is usually a shock for realtors, but we go within 0.1 mile of the property.
Oh, you do one, okay.
0.1.
For
0.1.
realtors. do
Same
0.5.
block.
Same, especially in Philly areas,
Yeah.
same block. Same block. I mean,
Cause it can change from
So
block
what
to
if there's
block.
nothing on the
Exactly.
same block?
we don't do the deal.
It has to be, something has to be on the same block?
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, things might be changing a little bit because of the market right now, but we can go back, because the market's been going up since, 2010, right? So we can safely go back like 3 years and use those comps as a minimum, right? Like, since everything's been appreciating, let's just say something sold for 100,000 in 2016, and it was a reno then, and let's just say there's no new comps since then.
Right.
I can still say I can do a loan up to 100,000. Like I can use that 100,000 as my baseline. So even though that maybe I don't know if I was confusing you there. So even though our distance is 0.1, our point in time that we can go back is a little bit
Further back.
further
than-
back. Yeah, because those are the two things that are most crucial to your comping are distance, property similarity is actually number one, then distance, and then time of the
So
sold.
if you go 3 years back, I mean, stuff is different between 3 years back and then.
but everything's been going up, right?
Oh,
So that's what I'm
okay.
saying. I could use that number as a baseline, right? So if I'm getting an ARV of 200 because my comps, like something sold in 2016 was 200, I can safely assume that it's probably actually higher than that.
Okay.
May not be able to do that with the whole coronavirus thing going on. So if the recession happens, basically we tighten up. We go to a 3-month window. Like that's how much it changes. So it's basically however long the up and downs of the real estate market will be in terms of comps. So
Can you explain ARV?
the after
For some-
value? Yeah. So
That's Jennifer.
Hi.
Hey, Jennifer.
How you doing? I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're good. So ARV it's the value of the property after you've rehabbed it. So this is an estimate. This is the guess, but this is what everything is based off of.
So you guess that the value of the house after it's been rehabbed will be 65% more? Is that what
No.
the 65% means?
No, okay. So
What's your 65% and what's her 200? So I can get what ARV is.
got it. The 65% means my max loan size, how much money I'm willing to give you, is 65% of the ARV.
Of the price it is after it's rehabbed.
Yes. So if it's going to
Gotcha.
sell for 100,000, I will go up to 65,000 with you.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Alright. So that's what I was saying. But if you have bad credit, I might only go up to 55%.
But 200, you can go up to.
Or
Is that 200% or 200?
that was just sample value. Like
Oh, that was
you
a
put
value.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's not even percent. Okay.
Dollar.
That's
Just put dollar there.
That's what confused me.
Got it. Sorry.
Alright.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, I'm all over on this board.
No. Okay. That's good.
So essentially, you're only financing good deals, pretty much.
Always. That's what we always say. You bring a good deal, we will finance you every single time. It's less than the borrower, and all about that property and how much you're getting it for. So now we will do bad deals, what we deem bad deals, but it means your cash to close is going to be much higher than what you want. Your down payment's going to be very high. So a lot of people right now are trying to do the buy and hold strategy where they're okay with going up to the ARV value. I would not encourage that personally, because as soon as the market flattens or dips, you're losing money, right? But that's what I would deem as a bad deal. But so I actually cannot tell you what my ARV is if we were doing a deal together. Because we're privately funded and it would be counted as investment advice. Some legal bullshit, whatever. But you can reverse engineer what you think my ARV is. So if I come back to you and I say I will do a $130,000 loan, you divide that by 0.65, and that puts you at 200,000, right? Now, if I'm saying I'll do a $130,000 loan and you had an ARV of 300, 400,000. And you do that, basically your cash to close here is going to be, another 100. We're going to meet. You're going to need an extreme amount of cash, right? And you're going to say, you're not giving me anything. It's my way of saying to you, I can get the same ARV as you. I think that's a bad deal. I'll still do the deal because you're the expert in this, but I'm not going to go above this risk. That's what that is. So for the most part, the deal is always good. In fact, our repeat borrowers that love using us, it's our special. Like I'm not trying to brag, but we're really good at getting the ARV number. So they just say, "What do you got on this one?" And if it hits what they have, it's a no-brainer. Like they just go. So they use us for that. Like you shouldn't be offended. You should never be offended if I come back and say, "I don't think." You should be saying, "What'd you say? Why did you?" And I'll say, "Well, I can't tell you what my ARV is, but I looked at this property." And that looks really good to me. What are you going to do that's different here that's going to bring this up to 2,000? And then once, usually the counter argument is, well, I looked at this property, it was like half a mile away. I'm like, yeah, but what about that property that was sitting right next to it? Why would I not use that one? I don't like to get into those debates really. It's more just kind of like, listen, this is what I can do, take it or leave it. It's kind
So
of
you guys go 1 block radius, I guess.
in Philly.
In Philly, same.
Yeah, in Philly, it's pretty, I mean, you can tell with Philly pretty quickly because there's enough comps that give you a good feel for like, if values, let's just say, for whatever reason, values are going down to the east side of this block versus the west side, you know, we'll probably follow the lower side of things, because it's a lot of that is gentrification, which is okay. Like we're totally on board with that, but we don't over risk based on the gentrification completing, right? So, yeah, Philly's block to block, but if you go outside, if you're in neighborhoods where we're within 0.25 miles, maybe 0.5 max. But yeah, I mean that's if there's no comps, we just pass in the deal. I'm in Jersey, so that does happen. Around here, not really. There's pretty much always enough comps.
You say there's no comps, you just go with whatever.
They don't do the deal.
We just
at all.
Don't do it.
Nope, we just pass.
Can't find cops.
Yeah, yeah, because it's in our opinion, it's very speculative at that point. Your buyer pool is smaller. It's going to be a niche. Who wants that property, right? Now you can send an appraiser out. An appraiser is somebody who goes to the property and just they're going to nickel and dime everything that's there and tell you what they think it's worth, but it's very opinion based. And for our style of lending, we're just not comfortable doing that, so we just pass. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you another question.
Of course.
Because you said gentrification.
Huh?
All right, so let me give you another scenario.
Yeah.
All right, so property in Strawberry Mansion.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me see. You find something that's a complete gut job for 32.
All right.
All right. The ARV speculative on that block, all right, is really kind of like brand new construction on that block.
Is
On
anything
a
sold?
particular block, huh?
Is anything sold yet?
Yeah, it's sold. It's
Okay.
been built, like sold and everything. And so, of course, once somebody buys that new construction and it sells, they're selling it for 300-400, right?
Yeah.
And then here you are with the 32. But do you have to just basically demolish the house and rebuild it in order to get the
Gotcha now. Probably in that specific scenario, probably. But that's if you want to go for you don't have to go for ARV numbers, right? Like your cosmetic only scenario can still be profitable. So you may be able to go into that. Yeah, I mean, if you were to do that, what's the square footage roughly? Do you know?
The square footage for that, now this is, I know that the square footage for this particular house is probably about, it's very small, so I'm gonna say about 1080.
Okay. All right. So you could there's almost brand new a knockdown for a 1080. It's probably going to cost you 200 to 250 construction to do that.
To knock it down and build it up, or just to knock it down?
Yeah, and build it up.
Okay.
Be about 200 to 250.
Okay.
We probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah, cause that doesn't seem like it.
Right. But maybe you could do $100,000 reno on it. You wouldn't get the 400K ARV, but it still might sell pretty nice.
Right. Meaning don't knock it down and just go ahead and rehab the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on your strategy. It depends how experienced you are, how qualified you are. So I can't really answer that direct. Like both ways can be profitable.
Yeah, cause I'm just trying to like throw out like different scenarios, cause I'm not
They're good
experienced in
scenarios.
this also
Yeah.
either, but I
Yeah.
just wanna be able to say, you know, you don't have to knock a house down in order to get what you're gonna, you know, get something for it, and then still use hard money,
Yeah.
you know, and then either flip it or hold it and still get your, you know, your initial investment back after you sell it.
For sure. I mean, I'd probably say if you were to ask me what I would do, I would not knock it down. That is a whole nother beast.
Yeah, 'cause with
Foundation,
permits and
yeah.
all of that nonsense.
Everything
going
gets
on.
reset with the township, exactly.
Yeah, that's for a developer.
Which is why we don't touch it. We do not do land or new construction.
Okay.
That's just every lender's gonna have different appetites. We don't do land and new construction. Because basically if things were to go wrong there, it's too much time that we just don't want to put into it. It's not worth it from our perspective.
Right.
The cost. But if you could leave the walls up, we do those where you buy it for, and especially in Philly, it is pretty common. So that's a common scenario where you're not going to get the brand new building ARV, but it'd be a lot less of a headache for you. You could probably flip it quicker, which in this game, the quicker you are, the more money you're making every time. So I without knowing the whole scenario, I would say leave the walls up, fix it up.
Now, as far as like scope of work is concerned, where somebody has to get they have to give you the scope of work and, and all this other stuff. So they basically have to get their contractors in to tell them how much.
Yeah, that's typically what people do. They typically will do a walkthrough with your contractor, maybe a couple contractors, get a quote. Some people are experienced enough to do it themselves, but for the most part, you're going through with the contractor. Hopefully a couple. If it's a big project like that 100,000 plus one, definitely go through with a few contractors. Because one's going to see something the other one didn't.
Now, I do know people that they have contractors, but they have like a skew. Like every house that they flip is like the same. You know what I mean? And they just update their skew based on what the, what's going on like in house design and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Every year's got like a model almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
can always tell like, oh, they did this house because of, whatever.
For sure. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think it's cheaper.
In the fix and flip world, that is really good. Don't follow your the home network channel. Where they're they're the experts at flipping. And don't get me wrong, they make beautiful homes. But if you're trying to make money in this business, it's not about getting that $10,000 chandelier.
Right.
It's about getting good at a style, being able to do it very quick, probably cheaper. Or not cheaper, depending on because sometimes it's worth it to pay for the higher quality because you make money in the back end that way. But being good at a certain style, absolutely encouraged, especially from a lender's perspective. So, I'm not sure. Was there a question there, or were you just kind of stating?
No, I was just saying it because I think that it would be because I've seen people do houses and stuff like that, and I've seen other people. Well, they're painfully going through like where to put the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're doing
Wasting
this
time.
with every single, flip that you're doing, you just put the kitchen right there. Like,
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And in that way, at least you'll know how much it's going to cost to put this kitchen in.
Yes.
You know, so you know that okay, the kitchen's going to be $5,000. This is going to be this, and this is going to be that, and then. I've seen a lot of them too. They say, okay, what does the neighborhood have, or what does, do they have like a such and such and such a, in that way.
A lot of that can be good too for township codes. Because if a certain house is doing something a certain way, there may be a reason for that, and not just aesthetics.
Okay.
So yeah, that'd be if you have a contractor that can make those observations and do that, that'd be really good contractor to have.
Okay, I hate to interrupt Dejanera, sorry. But just trying to speed it along because I have like a time limit.
Sure.
So can we do like a summary wrap? If anybody doesn't have any more questions.
Okay. Well, anytime, if you do have more questions, you feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer anytime. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, my name is Ryan. I have my card there, and the cool changing color cups. Deborah, I got one of these for you.
I like t-shirts. Thank you.
You get one for asking the most questions.
Thank you.
You're close. You want it? All right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's basically it. Hard money is not hard. It's a lot easier than people think. It's all about just finding that right property. That is by far the hardest thing. Is finding the right property at the right deal, and then you just give me a call. I send you back a number saying here's what we can lend. Whether it's to you or a client, you just let me know, and that's it. We go. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
You got it.
I'll be calling you because I'm one of my client. I'm going to refer him to you.
Sounds good.